Hi, I'm John Gatta, CEO of ECRA Group. Today I'm going to talk to you about the concepts of academic return on investment and how you can use this framework to drive evidence-based practice within your school district. Academic return on investment is more than a formula. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of doing business. It's a way of quantifying the impact that school improvement efforts, programs, policies, interventions are having on student outcomes. As a school leader, you make decisions every day about how to optimally allocate the community's resources for maximum return on student outcomes. Academic return on investment is about quantifying the impact of those decisions. So when we think about academic return on investment, we have to untangle the two pieces here. We have the investment piece. We have the piece of all the decisions that we're making, the resource allocations, with the expectation that there's some return. But the investment piece starts with the board appropriating resources and providing administration the autonomy to make those decisions. And you make a variety of those decisions in terms of what programs we're going to implement, what interventions, what school improvement efforts, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to use the word program throughout this video to signify all of these efforts, and so you can interpret program generally. But the return piece of this really comes in the form of student learning. We're investing resources with the hope of getting a return on student learning. Well, how do we measure student learning? Student learning is all about the metric of student growth. So academic return on investment is understanding the investments that we're making and then also understanding the return that we're getting in the form of student growth. So the investment piece is what you start with. And this is really just about understanding this is what this program looks like, this is what this intervention looks like, and not only trying to document the financial investments that we're making, but moving beyond that to understand what are the teacher and staff time allocations that are related to this, because today there's a lot of opportunity for districts to add and add and add programs, but we have to ask the question of, if we're asking staff and other employees to allocate their time, what are the opportunity costs associated with that? Because if they're working on something, they're not working on something else. And so we want to be really mindful that when we think about the investments, we're thinking more than just money. The second phase of the process is about questioning, and the questioning piece is asking that critical question of what student outcomes is the program designed to impact, so that we understand if in fact this is a reading intervention, then we would expect accelerated rates in reading. If this was a math tutoring program, we would expect to see accelerated rates of growth in math. But asking the right question, you need to go one step further, because we don't want to ask the question, did students that participate in the program grow? It's an important question, but it's not the right question. It's not the question that really gets at the concept of academic return on investment. The question that we should be asking is, did students in the program grow above and beyond what they would have grown anyways, what they would have grown without the program, what the core program would have produced had the student not participated in the program? Well, we do this by analyzing each and every student's historical growth profile. So if you can imagine, every single student has been growing throughout their schooling. And then throughout that growth, we introduce programs as a way to serve them and make sure that they reach their full potential. If we can keep track of when we've introduced programs, we can use the historical growth profile of the student, and we can use what we know about the effects of the core program to project out, this is the learning trajectory that an individual student is on, and this is likely where they're going to end up if they don't participate in a particular program. Then we can follow that student as a result of participation, and we can look at where they actually ended up. Now we have two important data points. We have where the student actually ended up in terms of their performance, but we also have where they were projected to be had they not participated in the program. That difference between where they were projected to be and where they actually ended up is academic return on investment. And so when we talk about how do we measure academic return on investment, we measure it by measuring the distance between where a student was projected to be to where they actually ended up as a result of participation in the program. So what does that metric look like? Well, there's a lot of metrics that you could think about potentially using to measure that distance. One of the metrics that you see widely used is the metric of an effect size. Effect size has a long history in the statistical literature and within educational communities as a nice metric, as a universal metric that we can use to judge impact. And what ECRA recommends is when you're going to use those kinds of metrics like an effect size is you want to categorize it. You want to categorize it into positive ROI. These are what we call blue programs. These are programs that are showing Value added. These are programs that show scientific evidence that they're producing results above and beyond what likely would have happened as a result of the core program. Those are effect sizes 0.3 and greater. Then you have these green programs, the programs that are producing results that are consistent with the core program. We call that potential ROI. It's potential ROI because depending on what the objectives of the program are, you may interpret that as being positive, you may interpret that as negative. You do have programs that could show negative ROI. It's hard to think about, well, if I add something for a particular student or if I give them some special intervention, is it possible that we could actually get results that would be worse than had they never participated at all? This does happen. This is negative ROI. This is where the effect size is negative 0.3 or lower. This can happen during the first year of implementation. This can happen if there's other implementation gaps. This could happen if participation in the program requires that students don't participate in other forms of instruction. And then you can list your programs. You can list each and every program that students are involved in, the number of students that it's served, the financial allocation, and the academic return on investment for each one of those programs. That can drive conversations around which programs that we really need to continue to invest in and which programs we may want to think about reallocating resources towards the programs that have proven to work. That's all I have for you today. I would encourage you to visit the website. I would encourage you to look at some other resources that are available on the ECRA Group website. If you have any questions at all related to what I talked about in this presentation, you can always find me on Twitter at JLGatta. I'm usually pretty responsive to questions when they come in, and I'd love to have a conversation.